Hi, I'll remove this right away. I'll talk about it a bit later. In this video, I will talk about budget bicycles for commuting and similar. That is something that I often hear, such questions. For example, a bicycle like this, or even a bigger bicycle with bigger wheels and that horizontal top tube. The model is not important, the principle is. That is, when a bicycle is not in a rideable condition, it's not working, and can you fix it to be rideable on a budget, to have some sort of a cheap commuter, or to have a bicycle on the cheap to get it to ride. And when people ask me about such things, they bring a bicycle and say, can this be fixed to just do the groceries, or can it be tuned up a bit, it's just to work? This video is for those situations. The first things that I look at, the first thing is the frame. I inspect the frame to see if there are any dents or any cracks, especially on the welds, but also along the tubes. Here where the bottom bracket connects and the other tubes, chain stays both on the outside and on the inside. This, everything. I check out the frame to make sure that it is not damaged, because if the frame is cracked, it's usually not worth it to try and fix the bicycle, because it will not work. The frame will have to be fixed, repaired, welded. It's usually better to look for another used bicycle or something like that. Next thing that I look are the things that can get stuck into the frame so that it cannot be maintained in the long run. The first thing is the seat post, sorry. This one was very stuck. I had problems removing it, so I didn't put it back because it's bent, but it wasn't rusted. It's just deformed. Probably, I won't even imagine how and why, but it's damaged. The seat tube looks okay, it's clean, it's straight, so this frame is not compromised in that, but that's another thing that I check, because aluminum seat posts tend to get very badly stuck inside the steel frames, and vice versa. Steel seat post on an aluminum frame, though it's often not as severe. If it gets stuck so that you cannot get it out anyway using any technique, you can use some sort of chemical compound to dissolve the aluminum. When it's a steel frame and aluminum seat post, there are some chemicals that dissolve aluminum and don't damage steel. I haven't tried it, but I heard that it works. It requires you to remove things from the frame so you can pour the liquid in and don't damage anything else. But it takes a lot of time and hassle, and so you need to see what amount of time you wish to invest and what your time is worth it. You can sometimes save some money if you invest more time, but it's always a trade-off. And the third things that I look after looking at the frame and seat post is the bottom bracket. If a bottom bracket is a threaded one, I make sure that it can be removed. I've had some frames that had threaded bottom brackets so stuck, usually aluminum frames with steel cups, bottom bracket cups, that no amount of torque, long bars or anything could get it moving. I usually manage, but sometimes I don't. Also, when I do manage to get it unscrewed, sometimes the threads get a bit damaged. Sometimes they can be repaired by chasing them and recutting them, sometimes not. So that's another thing that I wish to make sure that works, that can be removed and replaced, because that confirms that I can use the bicycle in the long term, I can maintain it. Otherwise, if that's not an option, I can ride until there's so much play in the bottom bracket that it cannot be ridden anymore. And then you need to look for another bicycle. You cannot repair the old one anymore. These cotered cranks and old press fit bottom bracket standards, I prefer. When I see such frames, the first thing that I do is to see if I can put an insert to convert the bottom bracket to a British standard threaded bottom bracket. Sometimes that's easier done, sometimes it takes a bit more grinding and filing, but if you cannot do that, either because it takes there's not enough material and the diameters are not matching, or because you don't want to spend too much time or don't have the tools, for me then it's a no-go. That's the first thing that I would do on this bicycle. I've taken out the seat post, and the next thing would be to see if I can convert this. Everything else generally can be removed when it's worn. For example, this rear wheel, it has some play in the bearings, cup and cone bearings. When they develop play after being ridden, it means something is damaged, something is worn usually. It's less often that something got just unscrewed a bit. So I would open it, check it out. If the cups are good, then I can try to source the new cones and the new bearing balls and put it all together back. If the cups are worn, then it's not, you can put new ball bearings, but they will get worn over when they run over the worn cups, pitted cups. So in that case, I would just ride it until there's so much play that it cannot be ridden and needs to be replaced. Buying a whole new wheel is often, especially on low-end bikes, it's often the cheapest option. Rear tire is has a lot of cracks. That's not probably visible in camera, but it should be replaced. And the valve here on this tube is a Dunlop valve, and I would replace this tube for a Schrader, for the automobile valve, to make pumping up the tires more convenient. And as far as everything else goes, you check everything else. I've made a video about how to inspect a used bicycle. I'm not sure if I've made a video, but I have an article. I think I also have a video. I will link them in this video's description, so I won't be going into those details, but you check everything else. The three basic things are the frame, seat post, and the bottom bracket, but also check the frame, check the other parts in general to know how much investment you need, and put it on paper. If this front wheel, for example, I think this is done. I could open this cup and this hub. I could open this hub and inspect it, but I suspect this is gone. So a new front wheel, new rear tire. The front tire looks okay. It could probably be put in the back and used, with the new tire being put on the front wheel. And here we have no front brake, so a new brake caliper is probably needed. This is a bit too loose for my taste, but I might see if I can lubricate it, clean it, and maybe tighten something if this pin is not too damaged. Maybe replace it with a bolt. But this might be fixable, but some other parts aren't always. So when you are weighing your options and considering fixing an old bicycle that is not in a rideable condition, just see what needs to be done. First check the three things: the frame, the seat post, and the bottom bracket, and then see how many other parts need replacement, how much they cost. Are you going to pay someone to do it for you? Then see how much that would cost, or are you going to do it yourself, and then add it all up and compare it to the price of a new bicycle and to the price of used bicycles in your area that are in rideable condition, and see what works best for you. So I often get asked about I need a cheap bicycle just for city commuting. My city is flat and it has relatively decent pavement on the bicycle paths and roads, so the bicycle components are not under too much stress as they would have been if you rode uphill or over bumps and so on. But you still need the bicycle to be in a rideable condition. It will not become rideable if you say, you are my city commuter bike, I will ride you only on flat slowly. If it's not working, it won't start working because of that. And for repairs, I often hear, can it be just touched up a bit to make it work? Well, it's not magic, it's mechanics, so some things can be fixed. It just depends on how much time you wish to spend and how much tools and parts you need. So there's always a cost, and some parts cannot be fixed no matter how much you try. It's a lot, they're in such a poor condition that it's a lot cheaper to just buy new parts and replace them. So sometimes it works to just lubricate and tighten things, but often you cannot just lubricate and tighten things. You need to invest money and see how much that costs. So I hope I've explained everything properly, and if you have any questions, use comment section below, or even better, ask on bikeforums.net in the mechanics section. I think it's a great resource for sharing knowledge and similar. So Thank you for watching and cheers.